You're listening to the Journal of Liberty podcast. I'm Martin. I'm an African Students for Liberty local coordinator and law student at the University of Pretoria. The Journal of Liberty is a South African libertarian blog and podcast dedicated to the ideas of civil liberty, free markets, and individualism. For more information and updates, please visit the blog at libertarianjournal.wordpress.com. That's Libertarian Journal, one word. Enjoy. So, with this being my first podcast and all, I want to start with some basic concepts. In the future, I will be talking about many ideas and concepts relating to freedom and liberty and libertarianism. But we must establish some basics first. Today, I want to talk about the nature of rights, moreover, the manifestation of those rights. I wanted to give this podcast because, I wanted to do this podcast because this was touched upon in a recent conversation I had with one of my colleagues. He argued that in a free libertarian society, people should be allowed to be communists. Now, on the face of it, this makes sense. I mean, we're talking about a free society after all. Allowed isn't really part of the dictionary, as everything, unless it violates someone's person or property, is allowed. But I disagree. I said that communism is fundamentally incompatible with a free society. But let's make this conversation a bit more general for ease of understanding. I will start with some basics and work it up from there. Now, we agree that all individuals have liberty, right? Or to put it simply, we have rights. In libertarian thought, or in the libertarian philosophy, these rights don't really have adjectives. We don't believe in a right to bear arms, or a right to religion. These are all specifics. What we believe in is that people can do what they please if it doesn't involve the initiation of force against another. So let's say there's an argument that someone has the right to his own religion. Fine. He is exercising his liberty by having a belief. But does this right mean anything if it cannot be manifested? What good is it to say that you have the right to be a Christian, but you may not own a Bible or pray, or that you have the right to be a Muslim, but you cannot own a Quran and pray? My argument is that a right only matters in its application, its manifestation. Otherwise, it's simply something that happens in your mind, a thought, an idea. Now, because nobody can read minds, just yet, nobody can control what we think. And it would be silly to talk about a right to think or a right to a belief. It only matters when that thing, that belief or idea, is manifested. So let's say there is this belief. The belief is that all property, or simply certain kinds of property even, must be held by the state and used in favor of all citizens. The belief further states that if property is privately held, the state must expropriate it and take ownership itself. Now on paper this seems harmless, but of course as libertarians we know it isn't. Expropriation is force, because by its nature it does not take into account the consent or willingness of the current private owner. The state takes the property despite the owner's objections. In libertarian terms, we should agree that this is inherently unjust, and that the state thus violates the individual owner's right to his property. But let's say someone simply holds this belief in his mind, and never acts upon, or calls for it to be implemented. Thus, it's like wishing you could punch someone who has insulted you, but you don't punch him. No harm, no foul. You had a thought and it did not manifest. Only you and those you confide in know about this thought, and that is where it stays. There is no force or threat of force which is emanating from your thought. This is simply obvious. Thus, it wouldn't matter if you simply believe that all property must be held by the state. Your belief is not being manifested. But the moment you call for it, or campaign for it, or demand it, then your belief is manifesting, and you are in effect saying, the state must, on my behalf, take your property from you, without your consent and with force, and hold it for all citizens' benefit. That, my friends, is a threat of force. It is not dissimilar from saying that I am going to ask my violent friend to come to your house and break your legs. It's simply a threat of force. Now, this is why I am saying that inherently there cannot be any right to campaign in favor of communism or any similar worldview that is inherently forceful in a free libertarian society. What you will be doing is leading a campaign in favor of force and violent expropriation of privately held property. But don't confuse this with a form of communitarianism. If you are campaigning that people should voluntarily come together and set up a commune governed broadly by the same rules as communism, of course without force, then you are fully within your right. But this cannot apply to calling for a system which applies to all your fellow countrymen, willing or unwilling, which would have their rights to their person and property violated. Now, I mostly didn't say communist or communism throughout this conversation because I think that will be doing an intellectual disservice. Giving something an ism lends it a degree of validity as an idea or a philosophy. But really, I could have replaced communist with fascist or socialist as well. The word itself isn't important, simply what we mean by it. So communism and fascism and socialism and murder and rape, assault, all in their essence translate into violating the person or property of individuals, with or without their consent. As libertarians, we cannot have this. Thank you for listening in. Please subscribe to this channel for future podcasts. And remember to check out the blog at libertarianjournal.wordpress.com. That's Libertarian Journal, one word. Have a great day.